Hello, everyone. This is Alex from Alex's Autism Acceptance channel. Today we have a very important video with one of my friends, Jeremy Loville. Jeremy Loville ended up facing some prison time, and he was discriminated against because of his autism. And we're going to talk about that. It's a very important video, and yeah, let's give him a call. Hey, Jeremy.
Yeah, go for Jeremy.
All right, you can hear me okay?
Huh?
You can hear me okay?
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here, Jeremy. I really appreciate what you're going to have to say. I know it's going to be very important information for this community and just raising awareness for everything. So thank you for coming on.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. The first question I have for you, how long did you spend in prison?
A month.
1 month?
Yeah. And being in there for a day is too many for me.
I hear you, man. Was it like 1 month full, or was it like a month and like a few extra days, like between 1 and 2 months, or just 1 month?
Just 1 month.
Okay, so 30 days in prison.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So if you're all right with me asking this, and it's okay if you're not, what were you in there for?
Well, the thing is, I was actually in there under a under false police report. A, a false allegation got me put in prison.
I see. Can you tell me a little more about that?
Well, thing is, I used to be married at the time,
Hmm.
but the thing is, the woman I used to be married to would always lie to her dad, telling him that I was abusing her when she was the one abusing me.
I see.
So he ended up calling the cops on me, and I ain't did nothing wrong.
Well, I'm very sorry to hear that, Jeremy. That must be the worst feeling in the world. Like getting your freedom taken away when you didn't deserve it. That must be excruciating. So
That's the reason I'm still scared to marry until this
I,
day.
I, I hear you, man. I would be scared too if that happened to me. Yeah. Um, to your knowledge, were you the only one with autism on your cell block, or were there others?
I was the only one.
Okay. And how did you feel about that?
Trust me, I'm claustrophobic. Can't stay in one place for
Hmm.
no more than an hour.
I see. Did you have to move around in your cell in order to stay sane, I guess? Or did that not help?
The thing is, I couldn't move around because I was in a cell with three other prisoners.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that makes sense. And we'll get to that a little bit later. Um, Go ahead. Were you gonna say
Say it
something
again.
else?
That was it.
Okay. How are you able to handle the stresses of going through the legal system and a prison life?
How was I able to handle it?
Yeah.
I had to kind of force myself to keep my sanity.
I see. How so?
As as many times as I wanted to go insane, I had to not show that I was going mentally insane.
Okay. Did it get worse every single day with you?
Yeah, because I mean, thing is, I may be used to fighting, but not fighting every day.
I see. Because there are fights in prison every day, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Totally. Do you think having autism made the stresses worse?
Well, half yes and half no.
Okay. Can you explain that a little further for me?
For half yes, every time I'm in a fight, my autism kicks in at the wrong time.
What do you mean by that? What do you do? What
I
happens that lets you know
I
that?
I experienced a meltdown. I experienced a meltdown
Oh, okay. And you can't and
during an
yeah.
actual fight.
And you can't have that during a fight, right? Because that symbolizes weakness. Is that right?
Right.
Okay.
So the thing is, I kept forcing myself to stay in the fight, no matter how many times I wanted to melt down.
Gotcha. So it had to be like an extreme like self-restraint thing, right?
Yep.
Mm. And uh and for the people who are watching that don't know this, that's actually quite unhealthy because during a meltdown you're supposed to let your emotions out. That's what your body's telling you to do. So I'm so sorry to hear that you were forced to keep them in.
Mm-hmm. Cause see, if you melt down in prison, that symbolizes weakness,
Absolutely.
and the prisoners will take advantage of that and try to shank you.
Absolutely, yeah. It's there's a system in there that I just can't imagine. Um, so what about for half now? How did autism not make your stresses worse?
Well, it's gonna have to be when I was. They actually do work in prison, if you must know,
Okay.
because when I was when I was outside working, uh, that's that's when I didn't have as much trouble because
Hmm.
I was doing some heavy lifting.
So they make you do manual labor, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And so you sort of were able to. So from what I understand, you're basically able to focus your energy on that, and that made the stresses go away.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. I appreciate you telling me that.
You're
Um,
welcome.
so let's talk about your experience with the correctional officers. Were they aware going in about your beef, so to speak, with your cellmates, or did you get placed with your bully solely by chance?
I mean, I tried to tell the correctional officers that I have autism, but they didn't want to listen. So they
Really?
just put me in a cell with other prisoners.
So they were discriminatory based on your disability, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Now, I'm sorry to hear that. Talk to me a little bit about your cellmates. How, because they did bully you when you were in school, correct?
Mm-hmm.
How did you feel when you saw them again?
I was all like, ah, great. I gotta face these guys again.
Hmm.
And thing is, I actually had to face them both at the same time.
Wow.
So while I was in a fight with them, I had to make sure I was able to put one down and not get attacked from behind by the other.
Gotcha. Um, I mean, do you think because of that you experienced some PTSD from the bullying that occurred in school? That was kind of like brought back to life in prison?
Yep.
Okay.
And thing is, both of my bullies were in ABU, abnormal behavioral unit.
Oh, interesting. Tell me a little more about that.
Abnormal behavioral unit. The thing is, that's only for bad kids that won't quit acting a fool.
Oh, so people who can't follow the rules in prison?
Right.
Okay.
Like I only had to be in there for one day, and then
Oh, okay.
I had to, and then the teacher had to get me out of there
Yeah,
because
yeah.
there was no place for me.
Right, yeah, yeah. So were you in there because you broke the rules or because they said you broke the rules even if you didn't?
Well, me and another guy in the class would not quit fighting each other,
Okay.
and this has been going on since gym.
You're saying gym in school?
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Um, so do you think the prison system is discriminatory to those with developmental disabilities, mainly autism?
Yes, they are.
Okay. And what did you see in prison that led to this assumption?
Well, I'm gonna tell you right now, the prison cell that me and the two bullies,
Hmm.
known as Keith Garrett and Joshua Booker Lomax, we was all in the same cell, but the cell didn't have frippin' windows.
Okay. Did it have a door where you could see out of?
Yeah, outside. Yeah, when it comes to the cell,
Right. So I'm sorry, go on though. Like what did you see that led to this assumption?
well, when it came to the people letting the cells open and then letting the prisoners out of the cells for basically breakfast. You had to get up when they told you to get up. You had to eat when they tell you to eat, and you had to be outside at a certain time and be back in your cell at a certain time.
Okay. Now, personally, to me, it seems that everybody has to follow those rules and not just autistics. Did do you think it might have been like the harshness of the schedule and not the actions themselves? Do you think that was?
The schedule's pretty harsh,
Okay.
considering the fact.
And you feel like that harsh schedule affected you that it wouldn't have as badly without autism. Is that right?
Right.
I see what you're saying. Um, so if you could say one thing to anyone who was part of your case, what would you say and who would you say it to?
Well, I would say it to the people that got me put there.
Mm,
Like, I would tell them, I may not get you now, but you're gonna have to pay for what you did.
how would you make them pay?
Well, I didn't do anything, but then I found out from an officer that was reviewing my case. He found out that those two lied.
Hmm.
They got me put in there just because I would not give them any of my money that I was working hard for.
Wow.
Because I was a janitor before I got put in prison.
Hmm. So, so they arrest. So, were you originally gonna have to pay a fine instead of going to prison?
Wait, have them pay a fine.
No, no. So would you have to pay a fine instead of going to prison? And because you didn't, then you went to prison. Is that right?
No, I didn't have to pay a fine.
Oh, okay. You just said something about like them giving you giving them the money, and I thought that meant a fine.
The thing is, cause see, the thing is, the woman I was married to, she was always lazy and wouldn't do nothing,
Okay.
but I was always the one doing all the work. But the thing is, she had the nerve enough to ask me for money.
I see.
And then when I didn't give it to her,
I
she basically would hit me. And then she would call her dad and say, I attacked.
I see. That clears everything up. Thank you. Um. So, what do you want autistic individuals to understand about your experience with this entire ordeal?
Say it again?
Sorry, I think I'm in a bad Wi-Fi spot. Can you hear me better?
Yeah.
Okay. So what do you want autistic individuals to understand about your experience with this entire ordeal?
Just just do whatever you can to avoid the bad people that are jealous of you.
Absolutely. This is a bit of an off-topic question, but I was just curious in your opinion. Um, do you believe that prison for the majority of autistics classifies as cruel and unusual punishment for them?
Yeah, it is a cruel and unusual punishment.
Okay. And that sort of leads into my final question. How do you advocate for other autistic adults in prison? Because I can see you're clearly a huge advocate for this. So what do you do to give them the rights that they deserve?
Help give them the rights.
Yeah. How do you advocate for autistic adults in prison?
Well, the way I do that, and correct me if I'm wrong, I would try to comfort them through the experiences, especially after they've faced what I faced.
Sure. Yeah. And how would you do that? Like, how will you go about, or how do you go about contacting them?
Well, because see, the thing is, they currently have an autistic buddy of mine who's currently serving time
Hmm.
for something he never did.
Wow, that's terrible.
But I kept talking to his lawyer and trying to give him a feel on how the dude is.
I see.
Like, like putting him in prison for a item that's a stolen item that somebody accidentally placed in his bag, but it wasn't accidental though. It was intentional
Gotcha.
because the three that was in the same store as him, they were shoplifting, but then they put a stolen bag of candy in his bag,
I see.
and nice serving 17 days in prison because of it.
That is ridiculous, and that makes my blood boil. Whew. So, are you saying that like even if he did do the crime, he still shouldn't belong in prison? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, there are other alternatives, but prison is not alternative.
Okay. What
Plus,
would
I plus I knew the guy didn't do the crime,
right?
so
What
why arrest him for?
what would you suggest as an alternative to prison for autistics?
Well, there's halfway houses.
Hmm.
I mean, with halfway houses, at least you still have your freedom.
Right. You can like go to work and all that, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. I
but
mean,
you still have to be back by a certain time.
right.
But it's still worth it.
Absolutely. And anything else you can think of?
That's actually the main one that I know of.
Okay.
Or there is community service.
Yes. Yeah, I actually oh, my battery's running low, so we got to wrap this up. But yeah, I think community service is actually like the best thing that can happen, because like the community gets helped out, and the person who was convicted understands that what they were doing is wrong, and they get to serve justice for it. So I think that's actually a perfect strategy. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Well, Jeremy Loville, I really appreciate you coming on and talking about your experiences. I think it's so important for fellow autistics to hear. And I hope people watch this video and learn from it because there's a lot to learn from it.
Thanks for having me on, Alex.
Absolutely. Have a wonderful day.
You too.